The government is confident that over the next 3 years their performance can be improved. It's also released an inquiry report today which finds that the lifespan of the Collins class can also be extended now out until 2038. Now that's not, the Minister insists, going to change the decision that's due in the next year or two on replacing the submarine fleet with an improved and expanded number of subs, but it does clearly give the government and Defence more flexibility on this. But is an extension in the life of the Collins class really something the Navy wants to see? I spoke a short while ago with the Chief of the Navy, Vice Admiral Griggs from Darwin. Well, can I start by asking how many of the current Collins class submarines are in the water, are capable of service?
Obviously, we don't talk too much about what the exact status of the fleet is, but we have an agreed position with government on how many boats we can provide, and we are within the time notices that we have in that agreement at the present time.
So, what is that current agreement? What does it require of Navy?
Well, I don't want to go into the details of that, David, because it is actually a classified agreement.
Okay, but can you tell me whether any of the Collins class submarines are currently in the water?
Absolutely.
But you just can't say how many?
Well, I don't want to get into this debate about what is the exact number, but I can tell you that we are meeting our commitment with government, and we do have boats in the water.
Okay. Now the report today says the life of the Collins class can be extended through to 2038. I want to ask you, as Chief of Navy, is that something you want to see, the Collins class submarines extended?
What I want to see, of course, is a capability that is viable right through to the end of the life of the submarine. And I obviously don't want to have a gap in the capability, because it's a critically important capability as part of the ADF's overall force structure.
I appreciate no decision has been made to actually do this, to extend the life of the Collins class, but it is an option now. Isn't there a danger that as our neighbours, Indonesia, India, purchase more submarines, upgrade their current fleets, extend their current fleets, that extending the life of the Collins class is only going to widen that capability gap?
Well, that depends how you do it, David. If you just focus on the platform, on the engines and the diesel generators and all those sorts of things, then that would be a valid characterisation. But if you extend the life and continue your continuous upgrade program in terms of capability terms, the sonar, the combat system and the weapons, then you don't necessarily have that gap.
What about in sheer numbers, though? If we're stuck with only 6 and we've got India purchasing, as I understand it, a further 6, and they currently have a fleet of 15. Indonesia also ordering more subs. Wouldn't that leave us further behind?
Well, it's a matter of I don't like talking about the numbers too much. I really prefer to concentrate on the capability that the boat brings to Australia's strategic needs, and I'm pretty comfortable where the boat is in capability terms right now. Clearly, as you saw in the report from Mr. Coles today, there are aspects of it that we're not happy with. We're not happy with the reliability, and we need to improve that, and we've got a good plan to move forward on that.
Let me ask you about what comes next in terms of our submarine capability. The government's pretty determined, it seems, to have them assembled. Whatever we buy, have them assembled in Australia. Is it your view that that's the best way to go, or should there be a mixture here of purchasing off the shelf? I know the Germans have the Type 216, which is the same size as the Collins class. We could have them immediately if we bought them off the shelf.
Well, the Type 216, David, is actually just a concept. It's not a real boat. It doesn't exist. There are very few boats of the size and complexity of Collins that actually do exist. And so we are going to be in a discussion, and government will decide at the end of the day whether they go for an off-the-shelf option or they go for a new design or an evolved design of a current design. They are all discussions that we have to have. We've seen a fairly binary discussion about costs and 9 billion versus 36 billion, as if it is an apples and apples discussion. The off-the-shelf boat gives you a different capability to the Collins class that the Collins class gives you today. And I think that's a very important factor in all of this discussion, to remember that we're not comparing apples and apples.
Let me ask you about a related issue, the issue of crewing. How much pressure is Navy facing when it comes to crewing submarines, and I guess other vessels as well, from the mining boom? I understand a lot of crew would be taking up lucrative offers in the mining boom. Is that still a big issue?
It is, David, absolutely. We've just in fact stood up our 4th submarine crew at the end of this year, but it is a constant battle to retain our people, because our people are great people. They're terrific at what they do, they're highly skilled, they're highly motivated, and for another employer, they're absolute gold. So it is a real challenge for us, and clearly I can't compete in monetary terms. I have to focus on what it is that drew them to the Navy in the first place, that notion of service, serving our country, the esprit de corps that exists within the Navy, and we need to really focus hard on those issues, because I simply can't compete on the dollars.
But if we did have 12 subs, you're confident we'd have the crew for it?
Absolutely. It's a matter of will. We have been growing the submarine force over the last 3 years at around 8% a year. And that's with an effort to recover to the 4th crew. To get to the point where you have 12 boats is a long way off. And once we firm up the plan, we need to then put the effort into building those crews. There's no point trying to build them now when we don't know the exact build schedule. We will continue to build our current crews, but I'm very confident we can make the crews we need to run 12, given that you will never actually need 12 crews.
And just a final question on the people. You've talked about there the amazing job that they do. I'm just wondering about the issue of border protection. We often read from time to time the toll this takes on Navy crews. Tell us your perspective on that, and whether this is also a factor in turnover.
I'm not sure it's a huge factor in turnover. It's a very difficult job. I've done it myself. It's hard, it's relentless, it's grinding. And in fact, today the reason I'm up in Darwin with Warren Snowden was to present the first public presentation of the Operational Service Medal for Border Protection. And I think that is something that has really lifted morale here for our people to see such public recognition by the government and the people of Australia for the very important job that they do every day.
And just to clarify, Tony Abbott, of course, says he'll have the Navy turn boats back to Indonesia. Is that something Navy can do?
Well, what Navy does, David, is safely and lawfully execute the direction of government. We don't comment on the policy rights and wrongs. We execute the policy of the day.
But it's not technically something you'd have a problem with?
I execute the policy of the day.
All right. Vice Admiral Griggs, good to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.